Well, I'm Warren Pollock. I'm a member of Barn, and that's where we are. I'm a retired architect, and I have had a lifelong interest in art and drawing. My mom was an art teacher, so I started learning to draw when I was 6 or 7 years old. I thought that everyone did that. You tend to think whatever your parents do, everyone does that. I remember walking downtown and noticing, looking in the window of an architect's office, I saw models of buildings. And I was building models as a little kid, and that looked really great. So this allowed me to build things and to basically do drawings, which I wanted to do anyway. So I was kind of excited by the idea that you could actually do that for a living. When I came to the island, which is now 7 years ago, I brought with me a stack of watercolor paper that my mother had purchased in France. Well, now it's 50 years ago, at the Archie's paper factory. And she painted on this her whole life, but there was a lot left that I'd been carrying around. So when I moved it to the island, I thought, I'm going to use that. So I decided to draw on this watercolor paper, which is big. I'd never done drawings this size before. I started by drawing things on the island that were common places people went to, but I tried to draw it from a different point of view, like the ramp to the ferry from underneath, from down on the beach looking up. So people couldn't recognize what it was, but they never saw it from that angle before, or the bridge from underneath. And it just intrigued me to present that different view. So it's more than a photograph, it's where you're standing when you do it. There's a picture I did, it's about 5 feet wide, using the panorama feature on my phone. Most people have tried it, and it tells you to hold the phone perfectly level, otherwise it gets warped. So I decided to do the opposite. As I did the panorama, I turned the phone back and forth all different ways. And what happened was, it doesn't stitch the pieces together correctly, so it's all curved, and you get a strange assemblage of that. And I took a lot of pictures that day like that. And in looking at them, I thought it looked like a river of people, So I did the drawing from that, and with those kind of twisted contours. So it came from not following the directions. Of course, if you live on the island, you know that town and country is an integral part of the culture. And then it occurred to me, the thing about town and country, it's the people. That's the thing. That's the part of our culture. You see people, So I use the building as a background for a group of people, because that's what it feels like when you're there. I have developed a way of drawing that compensates for my lack of coordination in my hands. I've got MS, and it doesn't look like I'm compromised, but I can tell that I am. When I write, it's kind of sloppy compared to what it used to be. Well, I realized that if I used a straight edge for layout, that would compensate for that. And so over the course of a couple years, I developed a technique of I'll show you what it is. When I decide what I'm going to draw, I blow it up to the size I'm going to draw, and I also change the composition, take photographs, and then cut different pieces out of the photo and make a montage of what I want to do. So I can put people in where they weren't. And by cutting it into pieces and tracing along the edges, I can get the drawing perfectly laid out. And it seems like cheating, like I'm tracing it, but it really works. And because when you look at these pictures, it doesn't look like a person who's compromised. But I just learned how to work around that. This is a picture on the table here that I've been working on. And show you how this works. So here's a picture walking down the street in Milan, looked in a doorway, and this was a stairway going to apartments up above. And I thought it was a beautiful stair, had a soft curve, and this yellow, mustard yellow color is all over the place in Italy. And I thought a lot about this picture, drawing this, but it seemed like it needs something more. I always thought, I wish I would have taken the picture when someone was walking up the stairs, because then you can get a sense of the size. So I got the idea, I'm going to put somebody into the picture. I blew the picture up on my printer to this size, and this is watercolor paper, and I use masking tape so that when you color, you get an absolutely crisp line. This is an old watercolor technique where you put tape around it and then that stops the picture. So by cutting this thing into pieces, then I was able to draw the parts in the correct proportion. You see on the back of this piece, you can see it's all cut up into little parts. Because after I do that, then I tape it all back together so I can see the whole picture again. So every one of the stairs is traced out as one of these pieces. I looked for a long time trying to find someone that looked like they were just going around the corner. So I tried her in different sizes. I think this is the one I ended up using. So I put her onto the paper like that and traced her into the drawing. And what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to make her transparent so that it's almost like a ghost going up the stairs. And I'm still experimenting with exactly how I'm going to do that. But this is typical of the way I put some things into the composition that weren't there in the photograph. And to do a drawing like this takes many hours, so you can't just sit there for 10 hours. You know, it's not a sketch. So it has to be done from a photograph. The other thing is the shadows move. And so, and shade and shadow, you can tell it's really important in what I draw. So at some point, you have to take the shadows right then. And so working from a photograph helps you do that. I can think back to a particular event that made me realize I needed to do that. I went to a lecture at the university hospital, and the woman that spoke talked about how people dealt with handicap, with deficits. And it was a slideshow of famous artwork. And to my amazement, 4 or 5 of the really famous artists, partway through their life, they lost certain abilities, but they kept working. And including one guy who, in the end, all he could do was point. So he had the sketch cut into pieces, and then he pointed to the ceiling, had someone tape it together on the ceiling. And that's how he created it. That they kept working. A person who couldn't draw anymore became a clay sculptor. And I thought, well, and I didn't even know it. You know, I just thought this is all part of their work, just changed over time. So I thought, well, geez, I can do that. So that's what made me start thinking I should not give it up. And actually, my work has gotten much better as a result. And maybe I have to think about it more or something, I don't know. Plus I have lots of time now to do it. When COVID was going on and I was trapped at home. I had been going to Italy 2 or 3 times a year until COVID hit, and I always stayed in that one spot. My friend has an apartment there along a canal that Leonardo designed. So it occurred to me, maybe I'll just draw a picture of that place. It kind of got out of hand because it got really big. But I drew in the picture. I put myself in the picture. I put my friend leaning out of his apartment, and my wife and another friend of ours that traveled with us. I ended up drawing a picture as if I was actually there. And the funny thing is, I didn't quite realize that's what I was doing. You know, I just drawing a picture, and then it occurred to me, gosh, I'm creating the place that I can't go. So, and I really liked the picture because of that. You know, obviously it makes me feel like I'm there because I actually am there in the picture. I think that often people are discouraged from trying something because they have already decided, I can't do it. And this is really true of drawing. Lots of people, well, I wish I could draw, but I can't. Well, they can, they just haven't tried it. They can learn to draw. They don't think they can. So everyone has to get over that obstacle in a way when you start something. And so over time, you know, your circumstances change. If you're a runner, you can't run as fast as you used to, but you probably still run in a different way. And art it's very satisfying to create it, to actually do it. When the thing is done, it's like, well, the fun's over now. Now I got to do another one. So regardless of what it takes you to do it, the process of doing it is what you're after.